You won't believe how this story unfolds. A name that carried legacy, a woman who carried dreams, and a twist that no one saw coming. Freda Freeman was not just another name in the world of boxing. She was the daughter of George Freeman, a heavyweight champion who had built an empire inside the ring. But despite being born into a family of fighters, Freda's journey was different. She didn't grow up seeking the spotlight, nor did she crave the fame that came with her father's legendary status. Instead, she lived a life mostly away from public attention, appearing only in a few documentaries about her father and making a small guest appearance in an episode of King of the Hill in 2003. But this is where it gets interesting. Freda's connection to boxing wasn't just through her father. It was in her blood, in her soul. Unlike many who inherit fame without effort, Freda had a passion for the sport that ran deep. In the year 2000, she did something no one expected. She stepped into the ring as a professional boxer in the middleweight division. And let me tell you, she wasn't just a daughter living under the shadow of a great man. She was a warrior in her own right. With power in her fists and determination in her heart, she started her boxing career with a bang, winning her first 5 fights back-to-back. Each victory proved she wasn't just there because of her last name. She was there because she deserved to be. But here's the shocking part. Just when her career was taking off, just when she was proving herself to the world, something unexpected happened. In 2001, she entered the ring for her 6th fight. The crowd watched closely, expecting another triumph, but this time things didn't go her way. She lost. And after that loss, she disappeared. No announcements, no farewell interviews, no grand goodbye. Just like that, Freda Freeman vanished from the boxing world. People assumed it was the defeat that broke her, that she couldn't handle the loss. But this is where the story takes a turn that no one saw coming. Because Freda didn't leave boxing because of her defeat. No, there was a deeper reason, one that stayed hidden for years. It was later revealed that her father, George Freeman, never wanted her in the ring. Despite his own brutal career in boxing, he did not believe it was the right path for his daughter. He had always been a traditionalist, a man who saw boxing as a sport for men. So when Freda lost that fight, he saw an opportunity to pull her out before she went too deep. Reports suggest that he offered her financial compensation to leave the sport permanently. And in the end, she accepted. But this is where it gets even more interesting. Freda Freeman may have stepped away from boxing, but she wasn't the type to fade into the background. Walking away from the ring didn't mean she had lost her fighting spirit. It just meant she had to find a new battle. And she did. After leaving professional boxing, Freda didn't abandon the sport completely. Instead, she moved behind the scenes working in boxing promotion. She had spent years watching her father's career unfold, and now, with her own experience in the ring, she understood the business like few others did. She helped upcoming fighters navigate the industry, using her knowledge to guide them through the highs and lows of the sport. She wasn't just a promoter, she was a mentor. Someone who knew exactly what it meant to step into the ring with the weight of expectations on your shoulders. But what makes this story different is that boxing was no longer her only passion. Freda found herself drawn to something much bigger than sports, something that had nothing to do with fame, fortune, or championship titles. She became deeply involved in advocating for criminal justice reform in America. It wasn't just a passing interest, it became her mission. She spoke out about the flaws in the system, about the people who were wrongfully imprisoned, about the injustices that so many faced but so few were willing to fight against. She wanted to be a voice for those who didn't have one. Her Twitter bio said it all. She described herself as a mother, a wife, a friend, but also as someone who believed in justice and fairness. She didn't care about being famous like her father. She cared about making a difference. And for those who knew her, this was the Freda Freeman they would always remember. But just when it seemed like she had found her true calling, destiny took an unexpected turn. One morning, everything changed. Freda's life came to a sudden and tragic end. Her body was discovered inside her Texas home by a family member, and the craziest part, there were no signs of foul play, no forced entry, no clear cause of death. The news sent shockwaves through her family, her friends, and the boxing community. People were left with more questions than answers. How could a woman so full of life, so passionate about her work, be gone so suddenly? What really happened behind those closed doors? But this is where the mystery deepens. Freda Freeman's sudden passing left everyone stunned, but what followed only made things more unsettling. Authorities arrived at her Texas home, trying to piece together what had happened. There were no signs of struggle, no obvious cause of death, and no immediate explanation for why a healthy, active woman could be gone in an instant. Her family, heartbroken and desperate for answers, waited for the coroner's report, hoping it would provide some clarity. But here's the shocking part. The more they waited, the more questions arose. Rumors began to spread. Some whispered that stress had finally taken a toll on her. Others speculated about underlying health issues, but nothing had ever been reported before. And then there were the theories that sent chills down the spine. Was there something more to her death than met the eye? Some pointed to her work in criminal justice reform, wondering if she had stepped on the wrong toes. Had she uncovered something she wasn't supposed to? Had she become a target without even realizing it? But this is where it gets even more bizarre. As days passed, conflicting reports started surfacing. Some sources claimed she had been struggling with personal issues, while others insisted she was at the peak of her life, full of plans for the future. Even those closest to her were left confused. How could someone so determined, so focused on making a difference, just vanish like that? And why was there so little information coming from the authorities? Then, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived, the official coroner's report. But instead of bringing answers, it only made things even more complicated. The cause of death? Inconclusive. No clear explanation. No foul play, yet no medical reason that fully explained why Freda Freeman was no longer alive. It was as if she had simply stopped existing. And for those who loved her, that wasn't good enough. They wanted the truth. They needed the truth. Her family, still in shock, demanded more investigation. They weren't satisfied with the vague conclusions, and neither were the people who had followed her journey. How could someone who had fought so hard, who had so much left to do, be gone without a reason? But before they could even begin to process their grief, another twist was about to change everything. But this is where it takes a turn no one expected. Just when the world was coming to terms with Freda Freeman's mysterious passing, new details emerged. Details that made her death even more unsettling. Close friends and family members started speaking out, sharing pieces of information that had never been made public before. And the craziest part? Some of them believed Freda knew something was going to happen to her. In the weeks leading up to her death, Freda had reportedly told a few people that she was feeling uneasy. She mentioned having a sense of being watched, as if someone was keeping tabs on her. At first, those around her dismissed it. Maybe it was stress, maybe just paranoia. But looking back now, those words felt chilling. What had she meant? Had she been receiving threats? And if so, why wasn't anyone talking about it before? And then there was her work in criminal justice reform. Freda had been actively advocating for people who had been wrongfully convicted, exposing flaws in the legal system and calling for change. Some even speculated that she may have been digging into something dangerous, something that someone didn't want her to uncover. Was it just a coincidence that her life ended so suddenly? Or was there something much darker at play? But here's where it gets even stranger. When investigators looked deeper into Freda's life, they found something unexpected. There were gaps in the timeline of her final days. No one knew exactly what she had been doing in the 48 hours before she was found. Phone records showed little activity, and no security footage placed her anywhere specific. It was as if, for 2 days, she had simply vanished from the world before being discovered in her own home. Despite the growing suspicions, authorities stood by their statement. No foul play suspected. But for Freda's family, friends, and supporters, that answer wasn't good enough. They wanted the investigation reopened. They wanted real answers. And as pressure mounted, more people started coming forward, people who claimed to know things that had never been revealed before. And just when it seemed like the case might finally take a new direction, something even more shocking happened. An anonymous source contacted a local journalist, claiming they had proof that Freda's death was not as natural as officials wanted everyone to believe. What was this proof, and why was it being kept hidden? The fight for justice was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning.